Good morning, Wall Street winners. It is Monday, July 29th, and if we look at the futures in the Bloomberg app, we are green across the screen, and it's looking like the feeling going into this huge week of, we'll call it MAGA 7, MAG 7 um, earnings is going to be a big week. So the MAG 7, Magnificent 7, being companies like Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta. These are all firms that are reporting this week, in addition to multiple others. If we turn our attention to our trading app, which is the Yahoo app for Yahoo Finance, and we take a look, crude futures are down below $77 a barrel. So that's an interesting turn. That was something that I was thinking we'd see actually be heading up towards 85, but this has gone in the opposite direction. If we scroll down through our list of stocks, starting with health and retail, I don't think we're going to see a lot in the retail space right now, with retail earnings still early days. We're going to see those in the coming weeks. Their focus really right now is on tech, but where we may see some movement is in healthcare. We saw some great results last week from HCA. Humana results come out in 2 days, and I do expect that we're going to see some strong results in the pre-market on July at the in 2 days from now. I think it's July 31st that those are coming out pre-market, and I believe that we're going to see a nice little bounce in Humana. So that might be one to consider ahead of that earnings release, because the earnings from HCA were quite positive. I would be staying away from JB Hunt, if anything, selling that short or buying a put on that. I think that stock's going to go back down into the 155, 160 range. Again, staying away from CNR unless you're looking for a long-term buy and hold on those two. And when I say long-term, I'm thinking at least 6 months, if not a year out, for things to turn around in both of those companies to the positive and make any kind of significant percentage gain in those investments. If we look at oil today, green currently for the most part pre-market on our oil stocks, even though crude is down. Now, crude has, I think, maybe hit bottom here at around the, what time is it here? Around the 8 o'clock mark, 7:55, and it's starting to rebound. I believe we're going to see this come back and go back into the green and positive in the 77 range today, but that remains to be seen. If we do see it go back green, I do expect oil will be green. We had some great results from Valero last week. We've got Chevron and Exxon on deck this week. If we look at Chevron as an example, 4 days out from earnings in Chevron, and I believe the same is true for Exxon. So if we take a look at Exxon, not showing up there in the earnings, and it says to be determined, but I believe it is towards the end of this week. And as we scroll down into tech, so this is where I think we're going to see some interesting results this week. And interesting because I'm not sure whether they're going to be positive or negative based on the earnings. So I think it's going to be very company specific. And I think that if we see a company, for example, on Semiconductor, who reports today, come out with better than expected earnings, it could help to lift the other semis. We're going to also see AMD report this week. We're going to see Lam Research report this week. So we have a lot of those. Then we have your software companies. We have Amazon and Microsoft reporting this week. We have Meta reporting this week. Now, Google reported last week, had great results, great earnings, but there was some cause for concern, apparently, amongst analysts around its AI spend and an increase in its capital expenditures, or CapEx, around AI to really help it build and establish itself for the future. And that was a concern that dragged the stock down. I think we're going to see Google, which was pretty beat up last week, actually take off again and pick up, especially if we start to see the likes of Meta come out with good results, and they're also spending on AI, which we heard in their last quarterly release. So I think we could see Meta pop. We can also see Alphabet here or Google probably get back up into the high 170s, maybe even back up into the mid 180s this week, depending on how these announcements go from, we'll call it, its friendlies and its competitors, depending on your perspective. And those would be the likes for Google, the likes of Meta, and the likes of Microsoft, and to a lesser extent, although in the cloud they do compete, the likes of Amazon. We got an upgrade from Morgan Stanley this morning on Tesla. So interestingly enough, Morgan Stanley is very, very bullish about Tesla. They believe that they have reduced their downside risk on mitigating expenses and cutting expenses, and that they will be a market leader in North America in the automotive sector. So that was an interesting announcement. Tesla up $4 or almost 2% pre-market right now, and has been on a bit of a run for the last month or so. And then as we scroll down to banking, I do think we're going to hear Wednesday from the U.S. Fed about interest rates. So it'll be, again, a message to be listening for to see whether there is a cut in July. It's still possible. It's not likely, and certainly not something anyone's anticipated. Then we go into August, and we have the Jackson Hole Summit out in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, towards the middle to end of August. And then we get into September when the majority of people are feeling that there's going to be a rate cut in the U.S. But finance stocks have been starting to come back. And as time goes by, finance stocks, particularly banks that were weakened by poor investments, long-term investments in, call it long-term bonds or treasuries at low yields, like we had a few years ago back in the 1%, as those start to mature, they make their 1%, they don't take a capital loss in selling them, they come off their books, and they can reinvest in higher paying interest instruments. So time is helping the financials, and we're starting to see that in the moves in some of these. So RJF up 351, $3.51 this morning. That's a big move. I mean, that's almost a 4% move there. It's just a little over a 3% move on that stock in the early market trading. And then we have SoFi up 10 cents. SoFi reports this week as well. So we're going to see an announcement from SoFi. I believe that's tomorrow. And I expect some good results out of them tomorrow. JP Morgan up pre-market. We've got M&T, a strong regional that I thought would pull back. I was wrong in this one. And it is now in the 175 range. So that's pretty impressive. You've got Morgan Stanley Investment Bank and Goldman Investment Bank both up and both set to be in the green in the pre-market today. I'm still liking Schwab, although it's in the red. I think it'll turn today. I think we're going to see this stock get back into the low 70s, maybe mid 70s. We saw some interesting insider buying activity in Schwab in the last week or so after it dropped, and I think it was the CEO or chairman bought in at the 166 range. So if you're seeing insider activity buying into that at the level that the stock is trading at now, I think that's a good indication that they've got some really good insight into their own organization, and they think it's going to go a lot higher. So I'm a long-term hold on Schwab, especially getting in at the 66 range, and holding that for 3 to 6 months to see what comes of that as we enter the end of the year. So that's where we are today. I hope you're liking these videos. If you do, please hit the like and subscribe button. Leave me a comment. Tell me what you'd like to hear about in other videos, and I'd be happy to cover some of those topics if they align with the channel. Have a great trading day.